This is Ryan Howe with Small Business News. Again, for those who haven't joined the stream before, this is the show where I come live each and every day, Monday through Friday, between 8 and 9 a.m., give or take a little early. Again, today, I have some more client work that I have to get to. So I want to get in, obviously, take care of you guys before I head off, start taking my clients. Again, I'm a small business coach out of West Michigan, where I help my clients grow their businesses faster than I ever thought possible. You can learn more at summitbusinessguides.com. So it is May 22nd, 2024. And I'll tell you, we got a good one for you here. The narrative has been slowly shifting. The data from the macro level and getting more regional level has been dropping, drip, 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 little bits here and there. And we got a few things we want to talk. One thing in particular I want to talk about today is where one of the articles we have is from Business Insider, where they're talking about the U.S. economy is basically heading for a hard landing, and we'll go over what that means here in a little bit if you aren't familiar with that. But it's not good. It's been a long shift for these analysts, basically wavering between things are good, things are bad, things are good, things are bad. And we've been just kind of as economy struggling, between the two there, bouncing up, bouncing down as rates go up, rates go down, all off of sentiment from Wall Street. That's why I want to be able to cover that today. I think it's pretty important that if you've never heard or never been involved with the way these analysts write up their stuff and make their forecasts, this will be good for you. The other piece here that we have is going to be talking about the leadership skills. Again, leadership skills you learn back in business school, and maybe business schools you've had leadership skills you picked up over time, how they are not going to be helping you very much going forward. It has to do with the type of problems that you are basically having to deal with as a business leader going forward. They are definitely different than the problems we had in the past. So with that, let's get into it today. Again, as always, all of the articles that we discuss on the program here are going to be listed in the description. So please head over there. Even after you listen to what I have to say here, my thoughts on this, we cover it. I always recommend you go and visit the websites for the articles that I cover, to make sure that you do the reading yourself. That's always very important. I'm just literally basically, if you look, I'm just a little talking head in the corner right here. You want to make sure you're doing the work yourself. So with that, the U.S. economy is heading for a hard landing this year, and deep rate cuts are the only solution, Citi chief economist says. And this is from May 21st. I've been waiting for these articles to start dropping. It's about time, as we are basically at all-time highs in the stock market. This is typically when you start hearing the boo, all things are terrible, chirping start to show up. And it's also that time in the cycle too. I think we got a little bit more on this bear run to go, but either way, these articles are important to stay on top of, because these are the folks that manage interest rates and lending. All right, deteriorating labor market will be what causes U.S. economy to quickly turn sour, according to Andrew Hollenhorst, Citigroup's chief U.S. economist. In fact, he sees an abrupt economic comeuppance later this year. I'll tell you these editors and some of the words they use. Anyways, firms are hiring at a lower rate. Firms are having workers work less hours. That's true. That has been happening. And by the way, the hiring at a lower rate isn't always the employer's fault either. We have 8.5 million job openings in this country. 8.5. And that's been that number for quite some time, because we just don't have enough people in the workforce to cover it. So this gradual softening has already started. That tends to snowball and end up something that looks more like a hard landing. While recent labor market data doesn't necessarily point to such a dire situation, Hollenhorst argued that certain reports revealed a more pessimistic environment than many realize. A hard landing is a troublesome prospect, since a full-fledged recession can follow. And by that I mean it will follow. Small businesses are telling us that their hiring intentions are at the lowest level since 2016. And this is after we talked, and he's citing the survey data that we talked about last week from the NFIB. If you remember that, go back. There's last week. I talked about 2 different surveys from the NFIB, and one of them was this in particular. And if I look at the economy, the hiring rate is now at the lowest rate that has been since 2014. So we're at the lowest hiring rate in a decade. Though NFIB data has fueled bearish sentiment for a while, Holland Horse said a recent sharp drop from previous months made it worth paying attention to. Even when taking a holistic perspective, there are reasons to worry. For instance, Hollenhurst argued that while the national unemployment rate has remained about 3.9%, that's a big shift from its previous low of 3.5%. It's not wrong. It's, that's 10% uptick. It's over 10%. Anyways, Hollenhorst predicted that unemployment ticking up above 4% could trigger the Federal Reserve to start lowering interest rates as soon as July. Overall, he thinks 4 cuts will come for the end of 2024. And just as an FYI, that is a huge number compared to the rest of what the predictions are at. So there's some folks that are calling we may not see cuts until 2025, or at best maybe one at the end of 2024. So again, this guy's a little bit off, but I just want to bring this in because we typically, when these type of conversations begin, more follow, and I want to make sure that you're getting to hear about them first. So other analysts have also voiced hard landing calls pegged labor market deterioration. Daniel DiMartino Booth, by the way, Daniel DiMartino Booth is phenomenal. Follow her on Twitter. She literally gives out all of her information for free. She is extremely smart when it comes to overall forecasting for the market. She's been out front of basically where this market's been going now. I've been following her for years. She's great. It said one unemployment indicator says a recession has already arrived. Again, go check out the link there. Now, meanwhile, Hollenhorst said the likelihood of a July cut was bolstered by the prospect of a hard landing and a weaker economic activity. Specifically, he argued that the Fed's higher for longer interest rate policy was grinding down on corporate earnings at a time when consumer savings have been run through. So again, that's from Business Insider. I just wanted to bring this to your attention that you're going to start hearing this more and more. And one of the main reasons that the banks are asking for this too is they need some rate cuts to spur more people to take out more loans. Currently, banks they're not restricted in their lending, but they are hesitant, and they're being more. What's the word I want to say here? They're more cautious on what they're lending for right now because the cost for them to borrow money to lend has been going up as well. They need rate cuts so that they can borrow money lower, and then it makes sense for them to go ahead and lend out for the commercial piece. That's what they're trying to do here. That's anytime I see the banks making a statement one way or the other on interest rates and what the Fed should do, I always try to look at what their overall lending rates are at. In this case, the banks, they need lower rates so that they can borrow money at a cheaper rate to be able to lend out. So, and this is stuff again that I talk with my clients about on a consistent basis here. And if you want to learn more about what I do to help small businesses grow faster than I ever thought possible, head on over to summitbusinessguys.com. You can again learn about me, learn about just a few of the businesses that are my clients that I work with here in West Michigan and in Maine. Again, we got credit unions, lawn care. I've got manufacturing, adult foster care, in addition to trucking, law firms across the board. I offer and I work with Pinnacle, basically the business operating system, to help my businesses focus on their people, identify the purpose, create their playbooks to enhance their performance, and ultimately grow their profit. Again, definitely, it's the business operating system of choice. If you want to learn more, obviously send me a note. We can talk about it. And you can see my latest video that I have up on YouTube. Again, this is about, when we talk about hiring, this is how to hire the best employees. And you do it by weeding out the folks that you should not be hiring, making sure they don't apply in the first place. All right, let's get into our next article here, which is from Fast Company. Every now and again, I like to go to Fast Company. I like the way that they write some of their articles. I like the takes that they have from time to time. And this one is no different. 3 reasons the leadership skills you learned in business school are holding you back. Excuse me. So again, David Ross. I've always admired the way leaders can identify a solution for linear style problems so readily and so confidently. Sure, they may have been based on experience, but what impressed me was the ability to instinctively solve these problems. And that's what we're going to be talking about here right off the bat. And you led right into it, is that your experience that you have, even in business school to your current state, tend to be linear type problems. A happened first, then B. So if we want to change what C is, we have to basically make a change on A. It's like it's very linear in the problems. It's the cause and effect, cause and effect. What happens here in business, especially, and we're going to talk about those. Very few things are linear anymore. It's usually, as I like to say, it's usually a mosaic. A little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there. We need to be able to have methods and procedures in place to be able to identify those, and not just go about them in a scientific way, in a smart way, so we can identify exactly where these causes are. All right. In situations where the problem is linear, like a major construction project or an internal IT upgrade, can be followed. Linear can be followed successfully to completion with a project plan or chart. Of course, you may have some variation in budget and time control, but essentially linear problems are understandable. It's easy to gain consensus from stakeholders regarding the causes of the problems and the solutions. It has been so successful and celebrated. Captains of industries built careers on this dominant mindset. They, in quotes here, could see what strategically was required of their organizations and society, and would subsequently set a vision where we were to follow unquestionably. In this type of linear style thinking, if this wasn't your strength, that's okay. Business schools were the prestigious means to structurally support the development of this model of thinking. MBAs, for example, have been one of the key means to leap from being a great manager to become a great leader. So the story goes. Real quick, MBAs are important if you don't have a lot of business experience, especially in the analytical side. And while yes, it's just a degree, understanding what you want to use the MBA for, not just getting it to get it, but understand how to operationalize the skills, methods, and procedures you learn is important. So just keep that in mind while we're talking about this. So business schools taught students how to excel in linear world using reductive thinking by breaking the holistic down into a simplified model and calling on case studies from successful organizations in the past. As the prominent body that accredits accredits business schools worldwide, AACSB observes on its website, the world's business schools are where leaders are developed, inspired, and emboldened. There's a catch. Here's the 3 key reasons he's talking about learned in the business schools. Wicked problems resist linear solutions. I hadn't heard this in forever. That's one of the reasons I brought this up. I love when I first heard about this, the term as far as defined as a wicked problem I was like, what a great way to describe it. The term was coined over 50 years ago to indicate problems such as climate change, crime, geopolitical issues, and arguably even working from home, to name a few. If you've never heard that term before, a wicked problem, and here's the way it's defined, is a hard to define, as there are disparate responses from a disparate group, can have several root causes, each of which can have a greater meaning for some over others in an increasingly partisan society, is interconnected, being a root cause of another wicked problem. Again, they are messy. Leaders cannot identify a clear, confident solution to them in a way that could solve linear style problems. They require different skills and behavior traits by those learned by leaders in business school, frankly, in life as a whole. You have to be able to step back. You have to be able to basically step back, remove yourself from the situation. And, this is where your biases that you have, look at the information and then come up with a plan to strategically check every single input to see basically how much of that in particular input, what percentage is that adding to the problem. I've said for a very long time that the solution to, let's say, I want to say climate change, or the solution to most of the housing issues we have, there's not going to be 100% solution. Not going to be one of them. It's going to be 52% solutions, or you're going to have 101% solutions that'll slowly make the change over time. All right, next piece here is going to be leading under illusion. It's important to emphasize that this challenge to our dominant ways of thinking isn't new. In fact, we've been receiving warnings over some times for decades. In the late 1980s, the groundbreaking paper, again, Brundtland Report, calling for a more balanced approach to enhancing rather than damaging livelihood in the planets, observed that the time has come to break out of past patterns. Attempts to maintain social and ecological stability through old approaches to development and environmental protection will increase instability. How's that worked out? In the 1990s, the U.S. Army War College coined the term VUCA, implying that the world is now volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. This is, I actually use this with some of my clients as far as their problem solving that they use here. VUCA is pretty, you can go check out and learn about it. It's useful, again, depending, like I said, find your preferred problem solving, and then always have one or two in your hip pocket to validate your assumptions. The VUCA would be one of them I would definitely have in your hip pocket. Now, things are no longer black and white. Importantly, this wasn't just a concern for military organizations, for business as well. Still, nothing changed with exponential advancements in AI, with several environmental tipping points anticipated within a decade, and with your stakeholders internally and externally becoming more coordinated, sophisticated, and demanding. I would argue that the business world is becoming increasingly VUCA. Again, that is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. This will continue to be the case for many years. Leaders have led according to illusion, namely, despite the biggest challenges and opportunities no longer being predominantly linear, there's a belief supported by business schools that leaders can continue to run organizations successfully by employing 20th century thinking and mindsets while working in a more fast-paced, complex, and interconnected 21st century. Even worse, academics Warren Bennis, Nannis claimed in 1985 that too many leaders were hastily creating solutions or doing nothing, further exacerbating the problems. Sounds familiar, right? You may ask, so what if we aren't making a difference? Well, trust in organizations is in crisis. That is 100%. Many people believe that organizations, due to the dominant thinking of the leaders, do more harm than good. There is a growing chasm between leaders, staff, and stakeholders. The consequences are sizable for leaders keeping their linear thinking. And here's some of the things that you see. You got staff disengagement, absenteeism, presenteeism, difficulty attracting high caliber staff, conflict with communities that can last for weeks and years, conflict that is costly to the bottom line, bursts morale and inspires staff to leave. And then last one here is that they talk about the third piece is resisting mindset shifts. Please don't get me wrong. Leaders and aspiring leaders are still learning important skills in the business schools by taking core subjects on teamwork, strategy, global management, and even personal development. But rarely the skills and traits needed for leaders to thrive in the messy 21st century are acknowledged. Every time you made a leap in your career, you needed to call on new skills and traits rather than be held back by old ones. Similarly, that's always been a tough word for me. What you learn in business school to propel you in a leadership role now holds you back in the age of uncertainty. Those things are on their own. We don't need to continue perpetuation of the story of the great great leaders single-handedly solving things on their own. Such leadership was brilliant during the times of stability for solving linear problems. So here's what we want. So now leaders need to be conversant in systems, thinkings, and factor complexity into strategic thinking. They need to understand how the parts of the system are interconnected, the relationship between them, and how the parts work as a whole. What has been, these are the questions you need to be able to answer. What has been ignored traditionally that can now impact value creation? What emerging issues could also impact value creation? What assumptions have been taken for granted that must now be confronted? And do leaders expect the future will be just as be a continuation of the past? Last line they end up with here is research conducted in the last year identified that more than half the companies in the Fortune 500 list in 2003 no longer exist. Yes, they've been absorbed by other companies. Very few have actually gone out of business. So a lot of mergers. The reason I brought that up too is it goes back to, just understanding that the problems that you're going to be dealing with that we deal here again, as business leaders in today's world, they are complex. We have multiple cultures, multiple identities, multiple different competing factions within and without the country, within your region, state, etc. You're not going to be able to come up with a one-size-fits-all solutions for most problems. And understanding so when you're looking at, man, how can we fix this? It's not going to be one thing. Like I said, the example that I use for my clients when I'm talking with them is that the problems you're looking at are mosaics. Your job is to piece together what the picture looks like, one little tile at a time. You're going to get some big tiles, right? They're going to basically kind of fill in some color, kind of give it some shape. And slowly but surely, you're going to add those smaller tiles to the mosaic to it. So that way, which at the beginning was just a blob, you're going to add one tile at one point, and all of a sudden, the picture is going to become clear. That's where, again, I want folks just to understand that piece and this is what this comes down to. your decision making, you're not looking for the one problem. You're looking for the problems. You're looking for the causes, not just the cause. You're going to have, I had uh, one CEO that I worked with where there would be a uptick monthly, basically these monthly shifts in, some basically one cost line that we had under operational expense. And every month be like, what's the cause of that? I'm like, I don't know. I need more data. And after 9 months, I was able to say, oh, there's actually a 6 week rhythm to this. But it took 9 months to be able to see and validate that was actually it had to do with the overall ordering quantity for the packs that they came in. But I had to look at overall sales. I had to look at, what our number of folks we had coming through, what we're doing for waste, what was training, whatever it was. There's a bunch of things I had to look at first to build the picture to then be able to see 9 months later that, oh, it's on a 6 week fluctuation, which is why some months it's fine. The next month there's an uptick. So, and that's just an example, one very small example. And that's why I inspire all of you to make sure when you're doing your problem solving, when you look at those things that you're doing, always look at it from, we're looking for causes. There's very rarely is there ever one cause to an issue. So, all right, let's get through. Let's go back through what we talked about today. So again, we did cover from Citi just their idea about, as a warning that we're going to have a hard landing, which means they're predicting if nothing's done that there's going to be a recession coming soon, which you typically get towards all-time highs. People start talking about those things because they see underlying pieces there. But additionally, just keep that in mind, though. The banks, they also need those rates to come down so they can borrow at a lower rate and then lend them out. And then the last piece here, we just talk about, again, why business education is not going to arm you with the skills necessarily for the problem solving that you have to do right now in today's environment. Okay. So with that, again, my name is Ryan House. This has been Small Business News for March 22nd, 2024. Hopefully I earned your subscription today. And if so, make sure you hit that notification bell so you can be notified when I come live here every single day on YouTube and Facebook. So that, take care, and I will see you tomorrow.